Ladies and gentlemen, it's only in 60 years, that's only the second time that that's happened, that a deputy president got up from that seat and stood up here to address you as your president. And I am greatly honoured to be the 14th president of the IFA. Having spent the last 6 months meeting farmers and IFA officers in every corner of the country, I am immensely proud of the great organisation that IFA is. I'm acutely aware of the strong messages coming from farmyards across the country, and that is that firstly, farm incomes must be improved by securing premium prices for the top quality produce and reducing input costs, and that a new Charter of Rights is required to remove the fear surrounding inspections and guarantee farmers respect and fair play. To these concerns, I want to add two more that I see as critical to the well-being of farm families. Irish agriculture must not be sacrificed in EU trade deals that turn a blind eye to imports which fail to meet European standards. And in the review of tax treatment of agriculture, we must hold what we have and push for new measures that address farm investment, land mobility, income volatility and succession. This is the clear mandate that I have received in the IFA election, and this is the strong message that I am sending to government, processors and retailers today. Before I go any further, I want to mention the huge effort put in by all the candidates and their supporters and their families in the IFA elections. I want to pay particular tribute to Ger Bergen for his outstanding contribution to IFA at county and national level. I want to acknowledge the other candidates, JJ Kavanagh, Kevin Kearsey and Eddie Scanlon, and to thank all of you for your hard work on behalf of farmers. In taking over from John Bryan today, I want to acknowledge the excellent job he has done on behalf of farmers over the past 4 years. John, and it was good to stand by your shoulder along that process, John, and from when you look at the videos, I think I was there when required, and I'll expect my team to do the same as we go forward. But your term, John, was dominated by cap budget and cap reform negotiations. You showed strong leadership, and you worked tirelessly to deliver the best possible results for Irish farmers. I want to recognise the work and excellent contribution of the other outgoing national officers, Chris Hayes, John Walters and Pádraig Divilly, and all the National Committee Chairmen and County Chairmen who finished their terms today. Thank you all. I congratulate our new elected team at national level. Incoming Deputy President Tim O'Leary, he will have specific responsibility for direct payments and the protocol project team, for Teagasc, for improving our engagement with discussion groups, and as a spokesman for IFA Countryside. In our new structure, our 4 regional chairmen, James McCarthy in Munster, James Murphy in South Leinster, and Bert Stewart in my own Ulster North Leinster region, and Tom Turley in Connacht, will work closely with the county chairman and the county executives in their area. They will have specific responsibility within their region for IFA branch and county officer recruitment, training and development. I want to wish all our national and county chairmen well, and especially our new officers taking up their positions today. I look forward to working with you and as a strong and united team to deliver on the issues of the day and improving the incomes and conditions of our farm families. Perhaps more than ever, the past year has highlighted the major challenges farmers face in dealing with huge volatility in both weather and product prices. The first half of 2013 was dominated by extended cold and wet conditions, which caused an unprecedented fodder crisis with real hardship and rocketing costs on all farms. There was a terrific response from our membership in helping out neighbours and from the association in sourcing 30,000 tonnes of feed and fodder from Britain, France and the Netherlands. I want to sincerely thank all the individuals and businesses involved in that effort. However, the real turnaround in farmers' fortunes came when the weather finally turned in mid-June and remained favourably to the back end. Lessons have to be learned and necessary actions taken. IFA will be looking to government, processors and the financial institutions to put in place measures to deal with market volatility and weather extremes going forward. The government must look at the policy environment and develop a more flexible tax system. The industry must work with farmers on forward contracts for both products and inputs. And the banks must factor income volatility into their credit policies for farm enterprises. Despite the challenges of 2013, agriculture continued to drive growth in exports, in jobs and in economic recovery. We delivered record exports estimated at €10 billion, created 25,000 extra jobs. However, farm incomes still compare unfavourably with other sectors. And here we come back to some key priorities for our association: farm incomes, farmers' rights, trade deals and the farm tax review. The average family farm income in 2013 was $21,400, compared to $32,200 for average industrial earnings and $48,300 for average public sector earnings. My message today to government, processors and retailers is that farmers must be properly and fairly rewarded for the job they do in producing high quality food. IFA will continue to push for higher product prices across all commodities. Prices must reflect the cost of production and deliver a fair margin to reward hard work and to allow for reinvestment. Hear, hear. In Ireland, we produce food in an environmentally sustainable way to the highest quality and safety standards with the best traceability in the world. Farmers are being asked to participate in quality assurance schemes and meet ever higher standards, and we are prepared to do so. We understand the importance of food safety, of quality and of provenance. However, for this commitment, farmers need to see a real price and income dividend from quality assurance and sustainability programmes such as Origin Green. Farmers are being squeezed by high input costs. CSO figures show that since 2005, fertiliser is up by 62% and energy by 36%. Some of these increases are the results of over-concentration of market power in certain sectors. The EU must take steps to tackle the international price cartels openly operating in the fertiliser sector. Minimising input costs is critical to improving farm incomes. IFA's input project team will be headed by Munster Chairman James McCarthy and tasked with expanding its range of price surveys and activity. What did I say wrong there? You're not happy, James? Yeah, good man. And that's the way we're going to keep it. And tasked with IFA's input project team will be headed by Munster Chairman James McCarthy and tasked with expanding its range of price surveys and activities in order to maximise input price transparency and competition. Our association will be directing more resources to challenge all providers of inputs and services to become more efficient and reduce their costs. The fear and stress of farm families generated by the burden of compliance and inspections is totally unacceptable. It doesn't have to be that way, and we're determined to change it. I am demanding a new Charter of Rights that does away with the current Big Brother mentality and ensures farmers are treated with respect. I will hold Minister Coveney to his commitment to open negotiations on a new and improved charter immediately, and I will personally lead the IFA team in these negotiations. I will be reminding the Minister of what is required: realistic notice on inspections, a reduction in the number of inspections and no duplication, a yellow card system with proper tolerances for minor infringements, the elimination of unnecessary and frustrating red tape, and the delivery of payments on time for all farmers. And finally, the unacceptable behaviour of the SIU must simply stop. We have taken these concerns to Brussels, and from our discussions, the Commission is open to movement. The Minister and his department must deliver on this. I acknowledge that the department's overall record on payment delivery is very good. However, there is no comfort for farm families who are left without vital income when payments are delayed for whatever reason. Minister Coveney must take the eligible land issue back to Brussels. Hear, hear. It is unacceptable that farmers who applied in good faith are being hit by retrospective penalties. It is unacceptable that the department is using new satellite imagery to disallow land areas that were previously allowed and understood by all sides to be allowed. This is an issue across several member states. For example, thousands of Austrian farmers are in the same position, with clawbacks being demanded. Later this week, I will be meeting the President of the Austrian Farmers Association to see how we can jointly pursue this issue. However, Minister Coveney is well aware of the problem and must work with other ministers in Europe to resolve these issues. Irish farmers reject the way the European Commission is using agriculture as its main bargaining chip in bilateral trade negotiations. As the largest net beef exporter in the Northern Hemisphere, the potential damage to the Irish beef sector from the recent EU trade deal with Canada and the current negotiations with the US and Mercosur is very real. Let me be very clear with the Irish Government and the European Commission. The recent import concessions, allowing 45,000 tonnes of Canadian steak cuts, will damage the position of Irish beef on the European market. On a deal on the same basis with the US, given their magnitude, would have a devastating impact on our livestock sector and cannot be allowed. Today, I am calling on the Government, including Teagasc and Bord Bia, to undertake a full assessment of the potential damage from bilateral trade deals with the US and Mercosur on the Irish beef sector, focusing on beef prices, on farm incomes, on jobs and on exports. Such an assessment must also include the impact on the white meat sector and the dairy sectors. On production standards, I want to warn the EU Commission that they are taking unnecessary risks by importing products which come nowhere near to meeting EU standards. EU producers and consumers will not accept food imports from countries where the use of hormones in beef, BST growth promoters in milk, beta-agonist drugs such as riboflavin in cattle and pigs is common practice. These are all banned in Europe. IFA will be demanding strict equivalence of standards on critical issues of food safety, traceability, environmental protection and animal welfare. Here. We must have robust testing and checks of all imports into the EU. I will immediately establish a farm taxation project team to defend the interest of farmers in the review of taxation announced by Minister Michael Newland in the October budget. I will chair this project team myself and work in conjunction with the Farm Business Chairman and his management team to coordinate the IFA submission. We have three priorities. Firstly, to ensure that the valuable tax relief that are critical to the development and growth of the agri-sector are maintained. Secondly, to secure new tax incentives that are necessary to drive structural improvements by incentivising land transfer, mobility and investment. And thirdly, to fully examine how the taxation system can better accommodate the extreme volatility in farm incomes. This project team will also take this opportunity to look at the simplification of tax returns and how technology can be used to drive down compliance costs, which in the last number of years have become excessive. On CAP, the Treaty of Rome was set out that the purpose of the Common Agricultural Policy was to ensure a fair standard of living for farmers, and that the people of Europe were to be provided with secure supply of quality food at reasonable prices. The direction of the most recent CAP reform and of trade negotiations run counter to these principles by putting European farmers' incomes and EU food security at risk. A major objective of my presidency will be to work in Europe to re-establish the original principles of CAP in the mid-term review of 2016. This will be a key part of the IFA manifesto, which will be put to the political parties in the European parliamentary elections in next May. IFA will remain vigilant to ensure that the effective implementation of the new CAP support is targeted at active, productive farmers through both the single farm payment and the rural development programme. As a priority, the Department must notify every farmer of the implications of Pillar 1 reform, including the details of their single farm entitlements for the next 7 years. Our association has mounted the most intensive campaign to secure strong national co-financing of the Rural Development Programme. I want to thank each and every one of you for your role in that campaign, and I expect the Minister to present details of the new Rural Development Programme and Pillar 1 implementation here later today. Resources must be provided for a meaningful programme, including strong support for the disadvantaged areas, a worthwhile agri-environmental scheme for at least 50,000 farmers, and farm investment support across all sectors, targeted at improving efficiency and infrastructure on farms to help achieve production targets set out under Food Harvest 2020. The attack, and all you could call it is an attack, on bull beef prices in recent weeks by the factories is seriously eroding confidence among winter finishers and is undermining the market. Unless addressed, the factory bosses can say goodbye to year-round supplies of beef. Feeders are very frustrated and angry at the way the factories are changing the specifications, using dual pricing, weight and age limits to undermine bull beef price. Factories and the retail supermarkets and food service clients cannot chop and change spec just to suit themselves. Reasonable advance notice must be provided to farmers before any changes to livestock specifications. Two years ago, factories pleaded with farmers not to export these calves live and promised positive market returns for producing bull beef. These commitments must be honoured. With the planned expansion of the dairy sector and more dairy-bred calves, livestock farmers need to be very careful. expansion must be based on profit rather than numbers, just to supply cheap raw material for the factories. Farmers have alternatives. There is a vibrant market for male calves from dairy breeds in the veal units of Spain and Holland. IFA led the way and did the heavy lifting in reopening the important live export trade to Libya last year. With over half of all our beef exports now going to one of the highest priced beef markets in the world, the unacceptable gap between Irish and UK prices must be narrowed. Opening the live trade to the UK and elsewhere is essential to bring more competition, and Minister Coveney must address market access issues in 2014. Falling numbers and low incomes have made our national suckler herd very vulnerable. The Minister made real progress with the announcement of the €60 per cow genomic scheme in October. The big decision now for the Minister is to build on this and with a delivery of a worthwhile suckler payment that will sustain the beef cow herd from 2015 onwards. The increase in milk prices received by dairy farmers in 2013 was badly needed to pay down bills after one of the most difficult periods on record. There are exciting opportunities for our dairy industry to service fast-growing demand from affluent populations in emerging countries, and the sector has real prospects to improve farm incomes, deliver extra export revenue and jobs in the Irish economy. However, prudent business planning at farm level is essential. Farmers in all sectors must be given ready access through Teagasc, agricultural colleges and other providers to quality business and financial planning advice and skill buildings. There has been impressive progress in the dairy industry consolidation and development planning in the last 4 years, but there's a lot more to do. IFA, we have fought for the last 4 years to reduce the cost of super levy in the lead up to 2015. However, there is more support in Europe for continued supply management than there is for the early loosening of quota. We will continue to explore every avenue, but it is our responsibility to urge farmers to plan to minimise their own exposure. The outlook for milk prices, costs and dairy incomes in 2014 is good, with high prices set to last for several months at least. IFA is lobbying co-ops to pay a top-up for 2013 prices to reflect the market buoyancy not fully passed back to farmers last year, and especially to use reserves to hold current prices for at least the first half of 2014. Profitability in the specialised year-round liquid milk production has been seriously undermined in recent years. I am telling the processors and retailers this issue must be urgently addressed if they want year-round supplies. On sheep, we need to improve lamb prices if we are to build on the good work of recent years. The difficult weather in 2013 saw the breeding flock drop slightly, and weaker market price and higher input costs put unacceptable pressure on producers. Lifting consumption is a challenge that must be met with strong promotion and a renewed focus on quality. Processors need to properly reward producers for quality product and quality assurance. And as part of the new cap, the sheep grassland payment scheme must be retained. The hill sheep sector requires a positive package of measures to regrow numbers on a sustainable basis and as part of a Combinage Framework Plan. Our Ulster North Leinster Chairman Bert Stewart will lead the Animal Health Project team, and I expect the organisation to build on the progress made in reducing costs and further improve the animal health status of our national herd. Farmers need to see a real return from reduced TB incidents and the BVD programme, and costs, whether they be veterinary or fallen animal disposal charges, must be tackled head on. It is not acceptable that regulation or restrictions result in increased charges for farmers. Our South Leinster Chairman James Murphy will head up the project team on renewables and alternative land use policies. In contrast to other European farmers, Irish farmers have experienced nothing but frustration with the government's inaction in realising the opportunities in renewables. James Murphy will also retain responsibility for issues relating to horses. On grain, I'll keep him busy. He can talk to me brother Pat, he's down there in the corner, so yeah, anytime you want. And I'd like to welcome my wife and Alice and daughter Alice here today as well. I should say my wife Mary, just to make sure. Anyway, on grain, despite a relatively good harvest in 2013, grower prices were unacceptably low, and many growers have carried forward significant losses from 2012. Spreading risk is key to reducing growers' exposure on price volatility. Merchants must respond to growers' demands for innovative mechanisms to reduce this exposure, in addition to forward sale and buyback of contracts. I am asking our inputs team to address the excessive high interest rate charges for merchant credit. The cureless cap reform has delivered a serious body blow to the European tillage sector. Greening measures that impose a requirement to grow certain crops rather than respond to market needs are flawed. The department must allow farmers to use equivalent practices that are capable of delivering greater environmental benefits than the proposed greening measures. Profitability in the pigs and poultry sector is unacceptably low and must be improved through reduced input costs and higher prices to ensure that farmers can invest and can reinvest and comply with onerous regulations. IFA will continue to challenge imports and mislabelling through our DNA traceability system. Pig and poultry farmers deserve fair play, and the IFA will continue to expose retailers, secondary processors, butchers, and the food service outlets who mislead consumers. Yeah. The outbreak of ash dieback disease is a major concern for farmers. IFA is calling on the Minister to commit the necessary resources to an eradication programme, which will also cover re-establishment costs for growers affected by any spread of the disease going forward. Farmers need to be given reassurance if they are to continue to make the long-term commitment that forestry involves. In recent years, the cuts to premiums, changes in tax status of forestry income, reduction in supports and increased management costs have eroded confidence. In addition, the decision by the Forestry Service to restrict planting on unenclosed land has significantly reduced the land availability to forestry. These damaging moves must be rolled back to benefit farmers and the forestry industry and the wider economy. A statutory code of practice for retailers with teeth is required for all sectors to address the concerns of Irish primary producers and in particular fruit, veg and potato growers. In our supermarket protest before Christmas, we highlighted the unsustainable practice and imbalance of power between producers and retailers, which is threatening the viability of primary producers. We will analyse the details of this retailer code and lobby hard to ensure the legislation is effective in bringing more equity to the food into the food supply chain. Our Connacht Chairman Tom Torley will lead our SAC project team. I am particularly concerned that the government is continually rowing back on previous agreements where our key priority was that compensation would be paid where restrictions apply. I am now calling on the Minister for Arts, Gaeltacht, Heritage and the Gaeltachts, Jimmy Deanahan, to instigate a review of the implementation of the SACs with the key priorities of proper consultation, an effective appeal system and compensation for restrictions imposed. The Minister must ensure that turf cutting issues are resolved and that the NHA areas are taken out of designation. Tom Turley will also have responsibility for waterway management and flood prevention. And here I want to thank Michael Silk for his Trojan work that he has put in this area. IFA has had discussions on the Commonage Review over the past number of years and succeeded in ensuring that the unfair stocking levels were not implemented at that time. With the implementation of the new cap, there is an opportunity to ensure sustainable stocking levels are introduced on hill areas. This must be combined with an upland environmental management scheme specifically designed so that hill farmers can secure an income from both agriculture and the provision of public goods. The current review of the nitrates regulations provides a real opportunity to deliver greater flexibility and address the alarming problem of falling levels of phosphates in Irish soils. Changes are required on soil P allowances that assume availability of P in concentrates, in soiled water, and the spread of broiler litter on tillage ground, and the removal of the ban on winter ploughing for spring crops. The continuation of the nitrates derogation is essential, but the imposition of calendar farming does not stand up. In 2013, the Association launched an initiative called Smart Farming, which in conjunction with Teagasc, the EPA, UCD and others is seeking to improve farm returns through better on-farm resource management in areas such as grassland, energy and feed. This is a good initiative, which is focused on reducing cost inside the farm gate, and this year IFA has secured a budget of over €30,000 to support members seeking to reduce costs through better resource management. Over many years, farmers have endured various infrastructural impositions, whether they be gas pipelines, new roads, or presently electrical infrastructure. We recognise the need for essential infrastructural improvements to facilitate economic development in all parts of the country. Each time, IFA secured a robust package of measures which protected farmers' interests, and we will continue to do so. However, I want to speak directly on the issue of high voltage power lines currently being proposed by EirGrid, which will straddle right across the majority of counties in Ireland. My message to EirGrid is clear and short. Preferred routes must be announced without delay, and undergrounding must be considered as part of the planning and route design process. This is an important year in the climate change debate, with Minister for the Environment Phil Hogan set to publish legislation. I welcome his commitment and that of the government not to introduce illogical sectorial emission reduction targets which will stifle the progress on our sector. However, in welcoming progress made in Brussels for having agriculture treated separately from a climate change perspective, this must become policy in both the EU and the UN if food security concerns are to be addressed. Irish legislation on climate change cannot restrict Ireland's capacity to increase output, as we have one of the most sustainable models of food production in the world. I have identified land use policy as a key area that needs to be reformed. Efficient land and resource use is vital to expand our sector. A number of key areas that need to be addressed under land use policy include incentives for medium to long-term land leasing, security of tenure, more attractive tax policies, and the promotion of timely and efficient land transfer and share farming options. We will be bringing policy proposals to Council in the spring. Access to credit at a competitive rate will be a critical component in the expansion of the agricultural sector. The withdrawal of ACC Bank and Danske Bank from retail banking is a serious concern for thousands of farmers, and it is a further erosion of competition in the banking sector. We will be demanding that the banking sector provides the necessary finance for expansion and will closely monitor interest rates and charges. In addition, where EIB or other low-cost finance is available in Europe, it must be made available and accessible to farmers. Farmers must also be given access to working capital finance to reduce their reliance on expensive merchant credit. Our research, education and advisory services are critically important to the future development of our sector. Our association will challenge inefficiencies and gaps in service provision, and we expect Teagasc and other agencies to drive the dissemination of timely technical and business information so that all farm families can benefit. In relation to the countryside and rural affairs, there is a raft of issues of concern, of major concern to farm families and rural dwellers. I intend ensuring that issues such as the state of the roads, rural security, the availability of rural broadband are properly addressed by state agencies and local authorities. IFA will put these issues on the political agenda in the run-up to the May local elections. Fish farming is growing rapidly worldwide, overtaking wild fisheries to provide safe, managed seafood and reinvigorate rural coastal areas. Ireland is perfectly placed to take advantage of the growing demand, but we can only hit the government's ambitious targets to double production if there is a complete overhaul of the licensing system and a serious reduction in bureaucracy. Farm safety and mental health and mental well-being of our farming members will continue to be a priority for the association. Our Farm Family Committee has linked up with Pieta House to provide a dedicated professional service to support farmers in stressful situations. IFA will continue to encourage farmers and their families to think safely and farm safely always. The Fair Deal scheme needs to be reformed so that any liability on productive farm assets is capped regardless of the duration of care. I want to say to all the chairmen and secretaries of our national committees and project teams, I will be sitting down with you in the coming weeks to review work programmes and set priorities for 2014. I want to welcome RTE's recent announcement to provide an agricultural and environmental correspondent. Hear, hear. I look forward to working with the media and appreciate their support in communicating our message. In IFA, we have a great organisation, and key to our success is our unity of purpose and democratic structure in representing all farmers in all enterprises in all parts of the country. Next January, we will celebrate an important milestone, the 60th anniversary of the founding of NFA. We have built a highly committed and dedicated professional management and staff in IFA. And I look forward to working closely with all our officers and staff to ensure that everything possible is done to deliver on the issues of the day. I want to thank each and every member for their support and wish you and all our members good health and success in the years ahead. Thank you.